at 6:31. I'm Sean Wadsworth, Chair of the Planning Board. Just going to do a quick introduction.
Curtis Coleman, Planning Board.
Kelly Robitel, Selectman Representative, Planning Board.
Morris West, Planning Board.
And we normally have fifth member Brian Bailey, absent today. It's fine. So just going to go right into Tom's got a presentation for us here. And how much time I don't know, what's your time guesstimate?
15-20 minutes possible.
15, 20 minutes. Okay, and I'm going to just hold that. Drew and family, you are preliminary consultation for not even subdividing, just developing an undeveloped lot.
Go
I
ahead.
don't know how I don't know exactly how it's put, but we have a plot of land, 2 plots of land, lot 16 and 17. They both have
These.
houses on it. 16 has a house that's no longer livable in, and 17 has a house that Lillian and I are currently in. And I'm just trying to figure out what we can do to rebuild a new house, since the one we're currently in is getting towards its end.
Okay, thank you. Tom, do you mind, is that alright holding? Because I think this will be pretty short, probably 5 or 10 minutes the most. Okay, so these are existing lots of record, they're in the tax maps, and you're saying both of them have a house on them.
Yeah.
17 is becoming, that's the unlivable?
That's the livable.
That is the
We're
livable,
currently
16 is just deteriorating, becoming unlivable.
Yeah.
In the process of getting ready to be taken down.
Okay, planning for a tear down.
Yeah.
So you're wondering what your options are for what's next?
Yeah, so what we were kind of hoping to was to combine the lots and then build a second house kind of in the middle of lot 16 stretching onto lot 17. And I have some diagrams for that. While continuing to live in the house that is currently on lot 17. And then once that new house would be built, we would take down the house that is currently on lot 17 and just have that one house on the 2 combined lots.
Yep.
That's what we're hoping to
Yep.
do.
It's a good idea. Unfortunately, the ordinances don't allow for it, as far as I know. I'll just
Well,
look.
it's a non-conforming, so it's a pre-existing non-conforming use.
Yeah.
So just like if you were in Jigger Johnson, if you wanted to rebuild a place in there, if it's a 1/10 of an acre, you can rebuild that there.
Yes.
So I would think that it's previously non-conforming, then they'll have that ability to do that.
You'll have, so to clarify, and stop me if I say anything wrong. So you want to keep lot 17, the house as is. And lot 16 is, well, the house on lot 17 is staying as is. And the house on 16, you eventually want to tear down and in this process rebuild and merge. I just want to say, so the ordinances say it's a 2-acre minimum, right? What you have is called a lot of record. It existed before that ordinance was written. So your lot's not going to be taken away from you. That said, even if you merge those two, they're still not a 2-acre minimum. And a 2-acre minimum only gets you 1 residential dwelling.
Yeah, I know
So merging
the
is not going to really do you anything.
the structure on 17 would end up going away once that new house is built. If that
So
changes
both
anything.
houses would go away and you'd end up with 1 house?
Yes.
That is a little more complicated,
Okay,
but
so-
I still think it's not.
I got a question for you.
no-go.
Are you gonna make it just one lot?
That would be our
So if
plan.
you're gonna do a lot, boundary line adjustment, just make it one lot, is
Yeah.
that what you're thinking?
So we're gonna get one lot instead of the new house.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's gonna, I would suspect, it's gonna be exactly like the situation, I mean,
Yeah.
if you go up into Wildwood,
Yeah.
and you have the same issue up there, I mean, the 2-acre lot is for new subdivision
Right.
approval.
Right.
So this, if they were to do a boundary line adjustment, remove one structure, then remove the other structure because it's becoming not what they want and build one structure. They're gonna be able, I mean, we have to let them do that because it's a pre-existing non-conform. So when those lots were created, there wasn't a 2-acre
Right.
minimum.
Right.
So in the past, man, you know too.
Yeah.
In the past, we have to let them do that because
I'll pause you on that.
Yeah.
Have to.
well, whatever. I mean, we all have a vote, but you know, if not, it would render the lots.
So I'll say this: what you can do with as it is you can tear down lot 16 and build on lot 16. You can tear down lot 17 and build on lot 17. And you don't have to have anything to do with planning board. You just get a building permit and do it. When you want to do a boundary line adjustment, then it's planning board. And in this case, because it's lots of record that are less than 2 acres, and you want to make them into one and do this, then that, pretty sure, and I would need to look into this further to get back to you, that it's going to end up at the zoning board. Because all planning board can do is vote to say this is permissible or this isn't based on the regulations, and we can't really give leeway per se. Zoning board is the quasi-legal entity in town that can say, we see what you're doing, this fits into the town master plan of keeping it residential and keeping it, improving it. You're reducing 2 non-conforming lots into 1 non-conforming lot and ending up with a
A
house.
little more conforming, but.
More
Yeah,
conform,
close,
right.
but not quite there.
Right, so all those things. So I think, and this is my just off the top of the head, I'm not giving you a ruling or anything here. I think here in planning board, if it came before us the way you're describing it, we would have to say that's not allowed. You have to go to the zoning board, and then you'd have to go to the zoning board and do the petitioning there and see what they result out, which we can't say they would do this or they would do that. You just have to go through the process and see how it goes. That said, same thing. You're taking 2 non-conforming lots, making the one more non-conforming, taking 2 houses and making it into one. So you're decreasing the density of people or of houses, and you're decreasing these non-conforming lots. So I think you'd have a good chance of getting through and getting what you want. That said, me saying that is no guarantee that that's
But
what
what
happens.
I would check on our end is how we address the previous non-conforming lots, because you don't really, I don't think we've run into this a lot lately. So I think we would just, if they don't need to do that step, we should at least check that. Because can we do a boundary line adjustment? Building permit. They need a building permit. Because it's non-conforming previously to when we enacted the 2-acre minimum. So that's what, I guess, would be the question.
We need to look into that. And I would say maybe that's true, except for the way you want to do it, where you want to remove the boundary line, keep the house on 17, build a house in the middle, then tear down 17. Those series of steps, I think, are going to prevent us, planning board, from saying that's okay.
I think
if you just tore them both down, then asked for a boundary line adjustment, and then built a new one, we might be able to say okay, but again, we need to do some research on our end to give you a clear answer.
So that's your goal, you wanna tear down, you wanna build it and then tear down?
That would be the goal, just so we'll have somewhere to live
Right.
while we're rebuilding.
Yeah, so I think you said tear down 16, live in 17, remove the boundary line, build basically where the boundary line was, the new house,
Yeah.
and then when that's complete, tear down 17.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you're gonna end up at zoning board, but we'll check into it and give you a more definitive, answer. But that's very likely the resulting path.
Our second kind of like plan B
Yeah.
would be to take down the house on 16 and build just on 16. Would there be any like rules regarding where we could build? Would it have to fall within the current footprint of the house that is on 16, or is there any wiggle room as long as it's like within the property, like 25 feet from the property line?
That's it. It's just the normal setback from the road and setback from your neighbor property lines, which I think is 25 feet.
25 feet all the way around, right?
If I believe so. So, there's this to consider, right? If you get rid of that boundary line, now you've only got one lot, you can only have one house. If you keep both these lots, you can have 2 houses because there are a lot of record. So, there's pluses and minuses. These are your things to consider.
But I
And if you did that, if you just did a tear down on 16 and built on 16, none of this. No zoning board, no planning board. You just go get a building permit and do it.
The sticking part is, you can't have two dwellings. So, there's no way of putting a deadline on you dismantling both buildings, because we can't say, okay, that's be down within 6 months, because we can't enforce something like that, really. So you're gonna, if it was anybody else on the street, the idea is, no, you can't have two dwellings on the same property. So once you make it one property, you get one building. So you don't get a leeway of, we're gonna stay in it while we build. It sounds great, and it makes perfect sense, but not everybody can do that.
If you have a attached garage, you can have another one on top of it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Right, if it's attached.
It's attached.
And what Curtis and Kelly are referring to there attached is an accessory dwelling unit, and that's in our ordinances too. I can email you that. If you're not already familiar, you got your primary residence, and you can have an attached building, attached garage, attached something that has it's a very limited amount of square footage, just like 600 square feet or 700 square feet for a second living space, basically for in-law apartment, something like this. Right?
So your father can move.
So that's where you can kind of have
Your father and mother can move in.
1.5. It's like 1.5 residences on a lot.
That's the plan.
So those are kind of the overview of your options. So you've got some stuff to think about. We've got some research to do, and
But I wouldn't, and I'm not gonna, the zoning board, I'm not gonna speak for the zoning board, but this is not something that seems very complicated for the zoning board. So I know when we say you gotta go to the zoning board, it's like, oh god.
right.
It's
But it
not-
sounds like the biggest stickler would be the two homes at one time. They might be able to put the lots together, get rid of both homes, and then build a house.
Absolutely. That's definitely
That's the cleanest way to do it.
But then you are limited to one home, and you'll never be able to re-subdivide them and get 2 lots back.
Right.
That'll never happen again, right? So once you get rid of that boundary line, it's gone, never coming back. So
And
that's what you got to think about.
I don't wanna speak out of turn, but I know other people will put up like a temporary place to mobile unit to live in while the other one's being built in other places, but I don't know what our rules are. I assume that's okay. I don't
If
know.
they meet the setbacks and all that stuff,
Yeah.
yeah. If you have septic and setbacks, that's basically it, and fire access, safety access. Any other questions for it?
Yeah, I think that's all we need to know.
Is the driveway gonna stay the same? The driveway
No,
access,
that would have to change.
that would be more centered.
Yeah,
They each have their individual
it would
driveways?
be closer to the joining property line, the one that goes away.
We do kind of have that like one driveway, like the second driveway on lot 17. That would kind of end up right where we would put that house in the middle. But if they were just on lot 16, the driveway would kind of.
I don't know that that's actually a driveway, but.
Well,
I think it's an overgrown.
it doesn't, as far as the driveway goes, if you have a lot and there's, if you have a lot, even if it's non-conforming, like the distance, you're gonna get a driveway.
Yeah.
You can't, the town can't
Yeah.
tell you can't have a driveway if you have a lot on it, so that's not a big deal, I just was more curious, but it's not a big deal. We have, I would say 70% of the lots in the town are non-conforming with driveways.
Yeah.
so.
That said, again, if you have one lot, you only get one driveway. If you have 2 lots, each lot just gets its own driveway. So there's benefits to keeping it. There's obviously, you're thinking about benefits of getting into one lot situation. So I think those through. I'll send you some links to the ordinances that are pertinent, and for the accessory dwelling unit, if you want to think about that. But I think that's it.
The zoning board's not an end all, like you're saying, it makes perfect sense that this should be fine, but I'm, again, not speaking for them, but it'd be the cleanest way of doing it, so they make the decision.
Cause they have much more leeway there.
Yeah, we don't have that leeway.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
If you want to stay for a presentation on culverts and water quality. All right. Thank you, Tom, for your patience.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
And lady. I represent the Saco Headwaters Alliance, and our mission is to support the future of our clean water in the watershed. Lakes, rivers, streams, aquifers. We've been in business about 4 years, and we function as facilitators with other organizations to pull together the resources. And so what the proposal to you folks tonight is concerns, as Sean mentioned, an effort we've got to conduct a financial feasibility study to replace all the culverts in need of modernization in our watershed. And the watershed defined as everything from Hart's location to Ossipee, and everything from our western border to the Maine border. And I have some paper to show you some of the detail on the towns involved. And we have applied to FEMA under a program called the Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities. And we thought we were encouraged by the New Hampshire Homeland Security and Emergency Management, which served as our conduit to the federal program. And we were told that what we needed was letters of support from towns. And the reason we didn't think about that in the first place is because actually what we hope this grant will do is build support in the towns, because it's really a feasibility study. So our request to you folks tonight is, would you be kind to sign a letter of support to engage in a conversation with us? Once we get the money, we hire some external financial experts to put together a feasibility study and review that feasibility study with you and any representatives of the town you'd like to engage, to evaluate whether you'd like to participate in the execution of a strategy to replace all the culverts in need. And that would be a big number. It could be, since we've partnered with the North Country Council, which has assessed all the culverts in the northern section, as well as New Hampshire Fish and Game evaluated or assessed all the culverts in the midsection, partnered with Green Mountain Conservation Group, who have assessed all the culverts in the southern section of the watershed, for a total of 1,200 culverts. And they have found 450 are in need. Now, typically, towns will, within their limited budgets, certainly focus on the priorities. And what we're seeing, though, is flooding is increasing, damage is increasing, threat to life and limb is increasing, costs of buildings and the natural environment is increasing. And part of our mission as a nonprofit is, can we envision a watershed that is still completely intact and as healthy as it is today in the long term? So we say, how can we fix everything and do it all right? Analogous to if in my house, if the plumbing is out in one bathroom, but I am only taking care of all the other bathrooms, eventually that leaky pipe is going to affect the whole house. So what we're seeing is, with the increasing flooding, the increasing rain, the increasing storms, yes, we're taking care of priority culverts, but we're not caring for everything. Hence, the damage and the cost keeps going up within our watershed, within our Carroll County, and statewide. So we're saying, let's think boldly, and the ask from you is really, would you be so kind as to write a letter that you're ready to enter into a conversation with us? So let me share a little bit more detail with you and show you. I've prepared an update on the fact sheet I shared with you.
Great, thank you.
And this one has a picture as well.
And I forwarded it, hopefully
Oh, great.
people got a preview of it.
So this is just a little bit more color and a little bit more formatting. And if I may, I can walk you through this just to give you a little bit more organized detail on what we're trying to achieve. So if we start at the project team, as mentioned, these are the organizations I just mentioned who are partnering together, and the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions, headed by Barbara Richter, who's their executive director, is a supporter with us as well, because there are potential statewide implications. If we can do something like this in our watershed, in the Carroll County watershed, we're seeing the same kinds of issues statewide. And when I talk with the folks at New Hampshire DES about infrastructure in general, we all know that there's not enough state money, there's not enough county money, there's not enough town money to maintain the infrastructure that's required to maintain our economy, really. So we're getting this inevitable deterioration over time. The towns of the watershed include the ones listed here, Albany and the others mentioned. And just to reiterate what I said, our intention, our ultimate goal, is the project team would partner with and support the towns to replace or repair 100% of the culverts. Now, we're not asking you to commit to that tonight. We're just asking you, would you support the conversation to evaluate whether that would be something you as Albany would like to do. But that's the vision. Let's see if we can marshal the support and do it. And we understand it's a big undertaking, so let me jump ahead a little bit to the program plan. Year one would be working with a financial team of experts who would interview DES, external investors, municipal bond sources, and a variety of financial mechanisms that a layman like me doesn't understand. That's why we would like some professionals. That would be year one. We would take those findings and present them before you and your colleagues in the other towns and say, how does this sound? Would you like to modify it in some way? Does it seem realistic that at a certain point, at the end of the next 2 years, and we anticipate, given the way towns are organized, we want to talk with the planning board, the zoning board, the conservation commission, the select people, the town management. We understand there are a lot of stakeholders here. That's why we're thinking 2 years of periodic conversations with each of the towns to do it right would be necessary. Again, no commitment to the end game. It was only after this 3-year effort we would ask you as the town, ultimately it would be the selectmen, based on recommendations from you and your colleagues, would you like to participate or not? So right now the ask is, would you engage in the conversation with us? Now if we look back to the sheet, and just a little bit more detail in what I summarized, and the map speaks to it as well. As mentioned, 450 culverts were found to be undersized, or faulty, or in need of modernization. And that conforms to a statewide standard. So this is a rigorous assessment, and we will have the data available to present to you from Albany once it gets cleaned up a little bit more. And you'll be able to see exactly what the assessments have been. And we know that there's severe flood damage, and it's very difficult to quantify because the costs for repairs exist at the town level, at the county level, at the state level, at DOT, and the efforts we've made to come up with a cumulative financial figure have really not been possible. But when we speak with individuals who are familiar with defective culverts and what it takes to repair them, a number we frequently hear is 200,000 plus or minus, and for the bigger culverts and bridges it's a lot more, of course, and for the smaller ones less. But the 450 and the 100 million total for 450 has been estimated by the professionals at New Hampshire Fish and Game. And they are actually our representative with FEMA, because a state agency has to be the applicant. A nonprofit like ours, when it comes to FEMA, cannot be the applicant. But happily, Diane Timmons, who's chief of inland fisheries at New Hampshire Fish and Game, has taken on the role of being our applicant to FEMA through, it's a cumbersome bureaucracy, through New Hampshire Homeland Security and Emergency Management. So there's a lot of agencies involved. And what we have found, and I wonder, and this is really a question for you that I'd like to pose right now, we're assuming there's not adequate municipal and state budgets to address 100% of the culverts in need. And we wonder if you have a judgment on that for Albany.
I don't really think that's true for Albany.
You think you're small enough that you can pay for everything?
I mean, we will take whatever we can get to help us, but I don't see Albany as having major issues with our small, medium-sized culverts. our bridges, our, no, you wanna call them box culverts, they're all rock, well, I would say every one I can think of is rock bottom stream beds, a lot like the picture you have in here. This isn't a major issue for Albany, not that we wouldn't want some help, and not that, you know, if there is some culverts identified as problems that we don't know about, I mean, I'm also the road agent.
I was
so-
gonna say,
So that's why I,
Oh, it's a great
That's
thing
what
you're
he's
here.
speaking
yeah, so that's why I'm speaking to it, but, so I mean, if there are culverts identified as issues, you know, we would be more than willing to take your money if you're gonna give it to us.
Well, the money for the planning is gonna go to the financial study group.
Right.
And there'll be some money also for some folks from Green Mountain Conservation Group who, and some of us, I'll be a volunteer on this, to knock on your door during the discussion period and say, this is what the financial strategy is showing, we'd love to have your feedback and see whether this is relevant to you. So, as the road agent and wearing the double hat as you are, Curtis, I wonder, would you be interested in that kind of a conversation after we had a financial feasibility study?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for any help we can get, and if there's things that that this organization can do to help us identify maybe culverts in need, and if you have a list that someone's gone through that we don't have, that's great. I mean, I'm all for this. I will say, just off, if we are spending money on things like this in within the watershed, people need to really look at the Saco River. The Saco River is probably one of the bigger issues that in the environmental world of anything in this valley, as it's the erosion and the lack of riverbed maintenance, lack of dredging. You know, the Saco River 50 years ago was dredged and taken care of, and they kept it in its stream bed, and they built, you know, a lot of, I call it armoring the wall, the sides. You know, if you go by First Bridge, it's all rip rap. You go up by, the Marshall Field, it's all rip rap. But if we get a heavy rain event right now, and the Saco River instantly runs brown. And if you really want to get real with the whole environmental world, that's probably the biggest thing we should be looking at. And the problem that's happened is no one wants to touch that. They would rather lose 20 acres into the Saco River every year than actually address that. So I think this is great, but if we really want to talk environment, that's a pretty big one. And you call it the Saco River, you know, Alliance and whatnot, or Saco Watershed. Maybe the Saco is pulling me to the Saco River, and maybe that's not fair to you guys.
No,
But you live in
the
Saco.
Saco is the main artery.
Right, so,
No, what you're addressing, absolutely spot on, totally agree. We are not, as an outfit, nor on this project directly addressing it, but we have been partners to an outfit called the Swift and Saco River, I don't have the name exactly right, Corridor Commission, which represents the towns on the Saco. And they got a grant from DES called the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Grant. They just completed the study with FB Environmental, which was summarized in the Conway Sun not too long ago, which addresses a whole series of recommendations for those towns on the Saco. That was the first definitive plan since, Sean.
Oh yeah, and we just had Mark Dindorf
Oh, Mark was here.
representing that
Oh,
last month, presenting
Oh,
that.
great, so that's what we're talking about. So Mark is spearheading that, he's the chair of that Swift and Saco River team. And we're sort of not visible, but we are supporters. Mark was one of our founders, actually. He was on our board before he moved over to the Swift and Saco River group. He's also chairman of the selectmen at Hart's location. He's a very active guy. But I'm delighted to get your feedback and that you'd be open it sounds like, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, to the conversation.
Yeah, no, I think it's great.
And may I ask you, you're Kelly, right?
Yes.
And your name, sir?
Morris.
Morris. And could I get your thoughts or questions?
I'm aware of this, I'm the road agent in Idlewild. You have two crossings marked in
Oh, you're a road
Idlewild.
agent in which town?
Idlewild and Madison,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, so I'm aware, I've been through this and I think it's great. I mean, it's not gonna cost us anything to vacuum.
Exactly.
And it's a good, we've,
It would cost you some time.
Some time.
To be in the conversation, and we'd love to pick your brain at
yeah,
that point.
and that's not a problem at all. I think it's a great thing. I would question, I don't have all the information, but you say that it's grants. Is it matching grants or?
Well, actually, what we're looking at, there's two steps here. The grant from FEMA is gonna give us money to hire financial experts, like Goldman Sachs,
Yeah.
or some outfit that knows how to finance infrastructure of various scales. So that's gonna be a chunk of
So you're not
change.
in the business right now, you're just
No,
setting
no,
up camp?
no. And the second tranche of money would go to folks like our friends at Green Mountain Conservation Group, who would join me, and we'd build a little team. I'm the volunteer, but we're gonna pay them some salary money to spend time with all the towns, because going through 5 or 6 or 7 town committees multiplied by 13, that's why we put in 2 years to have the conversation. At the end of that conversation, you folks and your select board would decide, okay, do we want to perhaps put a warrant before the voters for our role in the financing and our piece of how we raise $100 million? And it seems like a formidable amount of money, but with various investments that could be possible, with infrastructure money from Washington DC, with municipal bonds which could be stretched out over decades. We hope and believe, but we don't know. That's why it's a feasibility study. We hope and believe we can come up with a plan that would actually do it. And that's,
You lost me for 1 second.
yeah.
You can back up a little bit. When you say put together a warrant to back this, is that a money warrant you're looking for?
Well, at the end of 3 years,
Yeah,
there's gonna be a plan to finance.
yeah.
And
Finance the whole thing,
to finance
right,
100,
everybody.
100 million across 13 towns, that's the vision.
Yeah.
So at that point, there's gonna be a decision required from a town to participate in a $100 million project, even if it extends over 50 years. That could be a warrant. I don't know what other mechanisms for approving large sums of money over time might
You
be.
should be asking all the participating towns to buy into this.
That's right, that's right. So it would be unique. We haven't
Yeah.
seen a collaboration among towns on a major funding item
Right.
before. That's why we're trying to build in 3 years to see if we can figure it out together.
So for us to say, yeah, we think it's a great idea and sign a letter, we're not saying we're gonna come up with money to
Not
buy
at
into
all,
this.
not at all. It's
But we're
only
not-
an agreement to the
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, cause that
There's no-
changes the whole, that
Oh, no, no.
puts it across the hall into the selectmen's hands, which,
Here's a draft letter, and please take a look at it. There's no commitment financially,
I think I
it's
have
only a commitment,
I have it.
oh, you've got it, to give us
it's a commitment at this point to maybe make a commitment down the road.
Yeah, it's just, would you agree to talk with us and give us your thoughts and give us your know-how and your ideas to see if we can come up with a viable plan at the end of 3 years?
My question is, in the feasibility part and getting the financial instrument, the infrastructure overview of like how do you pay for this big infrastructure project? Ideally, enough grants would be found that 100% of it gets funded by somebody else, right?
Ideally.
But that's not going to happen, right? So there's going to be matching. What it's probably going to boil down to is matching grants of 80-20 or something.
Something like that.
Yes.
But
And so even if, I guess I just want to get to this, like, in 3 years, you're coming to the towns that are in this conversation saying, here's the whole package, will you buy in? But what you're buying in, as it is now, if a culvert blows out, we pay 100% of the cost of rebuilding the culvert. And in this scenario, we would be paying a small portion of the cost, probably, because the bulk of it hopefully likely is coming from grants. Is that?
Yeah, I haven't framed it that way,
Yeah.
but that's a great example of the kind of thinking. That what we hope and believe is exactly, just to paraphrase what you said, at the end of 3 years, each town will see a way to repair everything at a cost within its means.
So this is gonna be, I mean, you know, I'm always open to discuss something in more depth, but, I mean, Albany is a unique beast, right, in this list of towns. I mean, we have 48,000 acres in Albany, 40,000 of it is a national forest. We have Route 112 is, you know, Route 16 and a little bit of 113, state highways. We have 16 miles of road.
16 miles that aren't state.
Yeah, 16, 17 miles of road. So that's us. So as we're willing to, I mean, as me, I'm talking me, not we're, but as me, I'm curious to see what you come up with and never close the door on a discussion.
Right.
But for Albany, for our 800 and whatever residents, our commitment to something like this is gonna be limited. I would suspect that's what our tax base would say.
Yes.
Because we have a very small operating budget. Our biggest thing in our budget is obviously the school system, and we just don't have a lot of money to do a lot of things and make commitments. So I think it's a great in theory, and obviously move into the next discussion, but.
Well, it's a flying leap for us too. This has never been done. This being a collaborative among towns to raise a lot of money, to do something of a benefit to everybody. It's never been done. And one of the things that I've discovered doing this volunteer work I was on the land trust also for a bunch of years. So I've been a volunteer in environmental efforts for about 20 years. And one of the things that I've discovered, I wonder what you think about this, is that water, as we talk about it in the Saco Headwaters Alliance, doesn't respect municipal boundaries. Flooding doesn't respect municipal boundaries. Pollution doesn't respect municipal boundaries. But every municipality is responsible for its own infrastructure, even though we share the entire ecosystem together. So what I'm hopeful when it comes to Albany having a small budget and not having the size of some of the larger towns, the fact that you're responsive to the conversation really makes me very happy, because when it comes to FEMA, when they see Albany or they see Conway, they're seeing a town saying, hey, this town is interested in having the conversation with these people to see whether or not a joint plan can be created. And that would be a huge help. And the cost to you would be the conversation. And if we're lucky and we get consensus and we come up with some great ideas the way you envisioned it, Sean, a moment ago, we hope and believe we'll be able to pay for everything. That's our hope. That's why we're saying 100%, $100 million. And the other thing is, I come from business. And one of the things that we know businesses do of all sizes, whether it's small businesses or corporations, you invest and you get a return on the investment. Now, one of the pieces of data is a FEMA study which said when you repair infrastructure, you get a 6 times return on the investment over time. So what we do know, and it's hard to present it because towns work on annual budgets for the most part, but if we succeed in pulling this off at 100 million over the coming years, the return on an investment for the future years will be huge. So we're saving future generations. This is just not for today, this is for kids, grandkids, and the future of the watershed. And so that's why I get pumped, because I'm thinking it's unique, it's helpful, it's something that we all want. Why don't we see if we can pull it off, since the world's economy operates this way? Invest now, get the return on investment over time. We should be able to come up with a plan that does that. That's my belief. That's why I keep pouring my volunteer time into trying to do this thing.
We've been blessed by the Coleman family taking care of our drainage for so many years that, like Curtis says, we're sitting good. You know, we're comfortable. I know it's not a good place to be, but
It's wonderful to hear.
our drainage is just outstanding. So,
Oh, that's
and
fantastic.
Curtis and the whole Coleman group have just taken care of our roads so well that to get a return on investment would be tough for us. And I'm speaking as a taxpayer now. If I go to town meeting and I hear, let's put a warrant for, $20,000, $30,000 in case we're gonna do something someday, I think a lot of people would say we probably wouldn't do that. So I'm not trying to burst your bubble. I'm just saying,
No,
I'm happy to listen to you. I'm happy to push this forward. But when it comes warrant time, I'd have a hard time.
Fair enough, and that's part of what I'm learning by talking with you, is this is a heavy lift from our side.
Yeah.
But some towns are much larger than Albany.
Oh, right, and they would get the boost out of it.
And they can
where,
get the boost.
where I'm not saying anything about other towns, but Curtis does the work and it's paying off for us, so we're comfortable. And again, it's not a great word to use because you never know what might happen. But as far as putting money forward for something that we may never get any use of, it's a great idea globally and area-wise, but for our town, and speaking as a selectman too, it'd be a tough push. I mean,
I would suspect though, I mean, and I agree 100% with you, and thank you, but, I didn't pay him to say that.
yeah,
There's gonna have, obviously, be a pretty complex participation level module that you guys are gonna have to come up with. I mean, so, whatever that is, if it's Albany is, $10,000, or if it's Albany, whatever, I mean, that's gonna be, it's always, it's in the details of any deal. So, until we know that, then, I mean,
Sure. And what you're saying is good to be explicit now, because we haven't really thought that far ahead, but you are. And what I'm taking from you, which I would have taken as a given, is each town according to its need.
Right.
No town will be expected to pay for another town, but what we are envisioning, we are one watershed, and if we pool our resources, then we should be able to figure out a plan that pays for everything. And the other thing that's great is with just the feedback. By the way, I haven't heard from you, Morris. I wonder if you agree or disagree with your colleagues.
I think that the conversation sounds like a given to me. We can move ahead, in my opinion.
Well, that's great. It's wonderful. And, for a non-expert like me, who's just a volunteer trying to do this kind of work, it's a great learning experience. So tonight, I'm learning from you what the
good and
reality
bad.
is.
I mean,
And that's-
again, the idea is great. It really is, and I would listen. But when we start talking money, it's going to be.
It'll have to be
It'll be
realistic, but I
Yes.
think we're going to get that from every single
Yeah.
town.
Oh, you will.
And talking money is really tough, especially in our part of the world. I mean, we're frugal people up here, and that's just the way it is. And we're trying to be realistic. But I really appreciate the receptivity. If I don't know how you all would make decisions. I don't think this decision has to go beyond the planning board, because basically FEMA's saying, can you get a letter on town letterhead from an authorized individual? So if you all agree, please sign the letter, and that would be, you would be the first, and it would be symbolically a great help, a great boost. I would personally very much appreciate it. It would be motivating to get your letter, so I really appreciate the feedback.
Do you need a motion to do a letter?
Let's do it.
Make a motion. We present the letter outlining our support for a conversation.
Yep.
And however it gets worded.
I can second that.
That sounds great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, that's so
Yes.
wonderful. And if you want to use this one, unless you want, you can change it any way you want, but this is a template for you to consider.
Very good.
Well, thank you
Wonderful.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sean. Thank you, Morris. Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. Pleasure.
Well,
Thank you, Curtis. Pleasure. Thanks,
making
Sean.
the drive.
Thanks so much.
It's great.
Good to see you.
Folks, good
All
night.
right. Take care, Tom. Thank you. Speaking of money. All right. So let's see. Go back to the agenda here. We'll go to the minutes. Well, anything else? Unless we just go through agenda items. Anything else? All right. Minutes of September 11th. Everyone had a chance to review. Sent them out. I can pull them up.
No, that's not, if I had a problem, I would have known.
Yeah. All right. Anyone got a motion?
I make a motion to approve minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I don't know, I wasn't there.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if I
I'll pull it
abstained.
up.
We've got to abstain anyway.
Abstain. All right.
I was trying to remember if that's when I was at. I believe I was.
I'll just pull it up. I think you were here last month,
Yeah.
fairly certain.
I missed the one before that.
Yes. Morris, you were not here. That's correct. The rest of us were here, including Brian. All right. So Morris abstains. Motion carries 3-0-1. Thank you. Then our next is actually budget for planning board. So here's the budget worksheet. First column here is 2023 expenditures, and then second column is what we actually budgeted, and then we get to put in 2024 what we want to propose. I just generally say let's copy and paste unless anyone has anything they want to change. So right, we have budgeted for 2,000 for attendance. We spent 350. This is as of the end of August that Kelly tabulated for us. So if, and again, I think the 2,000 is if we had our full board for every meeting and all that stuff. Secretary 2,400. Yeah, the previous year I think the secretary's time ended up being around 2,000 because we had a lot more site plan reviews and there was just more things going on. It's been more quiet this year, so plus secretary hours. Same thing there. Advertisement, we haven't done any advertising. That's our advertising budget, $350. Manuals, $100 to pay for our RSA books. Operating expenses as needed, we haven't spent any. Conferences, no one's gone to conferences and no one's gone for any traveling, and we haven't had any legal, which we don't have budget line item, or it's a line item in the budget, but there's nothing in it, so that really should just be struck, I guess. We used to have our own legal line item, and then this kind of got realigned under advice / pressure from the select board to just say select board would dish money to planning board if needed. I still personally think planning board should have its own legal line so that you don't have to go ask the select board to spend legal money, but again, that's open for discussion too. I don't know.
I think the idea was to show less of a budget, but still get the same result.
Yes.
That was the idea.
Yes.
And either way, it's getting done. So I think when we, looking back last year, I think that was the thought process. Was
Yeah.
showing a lean budget, but still get the end result.
Get the
So
result.
however you want to do it, you're going to come up against the same thing because you get the same selectmen.
Yeah.
Well, 2 out of the 3. So
Do you think it's really reasonable that we need to have a legal question that we need to ask the selectmen for money? It seems dysfunctional to me.
it sort of seems untrustworthy, which it isn't. It's not that we don't think the planning board can make a decision to use legal, I think it was more, like I said, just to snip and clip and do what we do every year just to make a leaner budget. If you feel we should have it, I don't know if it affected, like you said, it didn't affect you this year.
In all my time here, we've never asked for legal. It's kind of a when and if you need it, how do you get it?
Put it back in, and I'll see what happens when it comes to time. Either way, there was just a discussion on where we're cutting, where we're clipping, what we're gonna do, so.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you start picking at this little stuff when it comes budget time. If you wanna present it with it in there again, and
I was just gonna pull up some older budget when we did have it. It was not a lot.
Well, $1,000 is probably around 3 hours.
Yeah, it was something like that. Like it's gonna disappear quickly. Legal, 2,000 for legal. So that's what past budgets would have had. I think every year is basically the same. 2,000 for legal. It never got spent. We could do 1,000. We could do.
I don't know what you get for 1,000 these days, so I don't know.
I mean, you know, they bill you in,
Yeah.
they bill you in basically quarters. So I mean,
Well, now that I'm sitting here, it changes everything.
Yeah.
It was a lot easier when I wasn't sitting here this year.
yeah.
I mean, I understand both sides of it, I do, and I just, anything that's not being used kinda goes about the wayside.
Yeah.
If you don't see something that doesn't get used, why do we have it? I think it's more of an emergency deal.
It just
If it's an emergency, then how long does it take just to, I hate even say get approval, but to get it from the other side?
It would be approval because you could
It would
easily select board could easily say we don't think that's a legal issue and not give any money.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that, well, there's a chance.
Right.
But if there's a good reason, then there's a good reason. So, I feel ambushed there. I will put it either way. I mean, if you wanna put it in there, I'll
Well,
support
don't
it.
feel like that.
I mean, if you feel you need it, I'll support it. I'll push for it.
I'm not in any way meaning to
Yeah.
make it feel like I'm.
No, I'm just, I'm trying to dig myself out of it.
Well, you know, there was 2,000 a couple years ago. I mean, if you put 1,000 in there, and hopefully we'll never get to use it, but I would.
It's still money
I would say
appropriated.
put it. I understand. I know.
It's still, it's an insurance at that point, it's not something that's used, so.
And when it's not spent, it goes back to
It goes
general
back
fund.
to the general fund.
Right. And then ultimately, so we propose a budget, and then we send it to select board, and then select board can deny our budget. And I think you just remove things last year, right? And then we didn't reapprove the. Maybe we did reapprove the revised budget that was revised down. Whatever. Let's go 1,000. We'll see if select board
You want, yeah, we'll play the game.
keeps it or nixes it.
We'll play the game. We'll put it in. Like I said, it's,
You can also ask a town meeting.
you could. That's a great place to ask, because
I mean, I would put it in if they don't want it. You can
our
ask
job
them.
is the budget. That's our job, is
Yeah.
to maintain the budget, and as we see fit. And when we see fit that something's not getting used.
Right.
But we're not saying, okay, you can't ever get legal, you still can. But now you're using money from somewhere else. It's just another step.
Yeah.
So it's not, we're not saying no, we're just saying the money, it has to be appropriated. Even though you don't use it, we get it back, it still has to be appropriated.
And even if you do it at a town meeting, then the selectmen have to actually label it for the planning board.
Yeah.
So you can add money to the line item of the budget at the town meeting, but they have to actually vote to put it in the planning board's budget.
Right.
You know, so that at
Yeah.
the next meeting. So I mean, it's.
This is not any thing that I am a high priority or low priority. It's more.
That's what I'm thinking too, it's $1,000, we're definitely gonna nickel and dime stuff, because that's, everyone's looking at us to nickel and dime stuff.
Yeah.
Cause they want a lean budget, so if we see we can snip something that hasn't been used, that's what we're gonna snip. So maybe we should use it. I don't know how else to make it worthwhile. But it's not a no, it's appropriating it from somewhere else.
So I heard you say dysfunction. Speaking from.
Well, I mean, it would just it just seems like a lot. I mean, I'm not the bureaucracy sometimes drives me
Mhm.
crazy, but I mean, the select board is a great group of people, and I mean, Albany's a little different type of town, right? We all
Yeah.
kind of do our part, and it seems like the same 15 people are involved in everything, so.
Yeah.
I don't really think it's a big deal, but put 1,000 in, if they don't like it,
Yeah.
then they can take it out, and if we need it, we're just gonna have to tell them we need it, and they're gonna put it back in.
Yeah. It's not
So I
like
mean,
we're
it's just,
yeah, we're not looking at it and say, oh, well, that's dumb, we're not gonna give money for that. I don't,
No, I-
we're just gonna see a,
Okay.
however you wanna do it. We'll play the game and put it in, we'll look at it. Gives us something to cut.
There you go.
Makes
makes you look good.
Yeah.
There you go. Morris, do you have any?
Yeah, sounds good to me. Yeah, as far as I can see, cutting and pasting is fine, and yeah, adding 1,000, right. Legal has been used
Oh,
in the
it's
past,
just
and
telling
it
me,
goes fast.
enable that.
But yes, it doesn't get used a lot,
Yeah.
but when it does, you need it.
Alright. So there we go. Legal. 1,000. Any 10,000. Any other proposed changes or anything? Or everyone likes the budget?
Sounds good
It
to
is.
me. I can make a motion to approve
The budget as presented?
as
Yep.
presented by Sean.
Okay.
Sure, sounds fine to me.
Anyone second?
No, second. For Kelly.
Silent on that one.
Boards.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, thank you. Alright, that is budget. Next is CIP, which is planning board responsibility for capital improvement projects for the long term for the town of Albany. Alright. So this is how this works. It's looking forward 6 years, spread the costs of any capital improvement projects out over 6 years. So here's the individual line items that we've had for the past number of years. The line items haven't changed. They've been the same for a number of years. All that's changed is the amount going in a little bit. We've kind of fiddled a little bit with different amounts on different years. But this is last year's. So, what are we at? So, Chapel Capital Reserve Fund. We're putting $1,000 in each year, basically. So that would be the thing. If we wanted to continue with that, it would be planning board recommending that the Chapel Capital Reserve Fund continues to get $1,000 each year for the next 6 years to build up for everything the chapel needs, the maintenance that the chapel needs to not crumble. Town Hall Property Capital Reserve Fund, and I know very little about the internal stuff going on here. You know, there was some like replacing furnaces and this and that. So I don't know what's needed, what's not needed, what's been, you know. This is this capital reserve CIP is a planning board responsibility. Unfortunately, most of the stuff that's actually happening is happening outside the planning board. So really relying on you, Kelly, to kind of
And it's
guide this one.
It's ongoing. It's, you know, if it's not one thing, it's another, as they say. But we did struggle with the furnace. We struggled with the AC, and now the generator. Something with the generator isn't powerful enough to run the AC. It's always going to be something. It's a good capital improvement to have because it's
roof or whatever.
anything. So we got to continue with that.
So it's kind of. Do you think these amounts are appropriate? This, you know, it's been $6,000 a year. Do you think that needs to be higher? Do you think it needs to be lower?
Because I'm blind as a bat. Is there a total where we're at now?
Oh yeah. Current balance is 14,000.
Yeah, I'd continue with what we're doing. That's not much.
Mm-hmm. This is. Well, actually, what is this? Current balances from last year. I gotta get an updated one from Kelly.
Right, yeah.
So that's a full year. That's a full year old. Sorry, the current balance. But that's what we've been doing is $6,000 a year
Yeah.
for town hall. Emergency management expendable capital reserve has been getting $1,000 per year. Highway expendable trust fund has been getting $60,000 a year.
Where are we with the state? Did they declare
The
that
second
May?
one.
Did they declare that May storm?
No. And it doesn't look good.
Yeah. So.
And they're not giving money till maybe even not next year. I heard 18 months for the July one.
Is this for state money or Fed?
So
FEMA.
FEMA?
So the May storm, we had $90,000 in damage, and so it was pretty substantial. The storm that they declared, which was a couple months later, we had no damage.
Yeah.
So
Because the damage is already done.
because the damage was already done, it was very you
Yeah.
just sometimes get hit with a pocket and they get 3-4 inches of rain. And
Other towns got devastated by the second one. First one and the second one. We did.
Yeah.
So the selectmen moved money out of the capital highway reserve fund to
Okay.
pay for that $90,000, or I maybe that's not
Yeah, it was
exact.
about 90.
Yeah.
I think we took less because you. Yeah, but you're right. You're
So I mean, whatever you're seeing as a balance here is not really real. I would say it's minus $90,000.
Yep.
So I think it's good to get. I mean, that will bring it back. If it is minus 90, the 60 will bring it back to a level where we need, because we always need to have the ability to deal with an event like this.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been the road agent for almost 30 years. We've had like 3 events like this. So it's very rare, but we still need to be able to go fix these roads,
Respond to it.
respond to it. And being it's not like we have a fixed cost with our road budget. You know, when we are working, we're paying for it. You know, and it's not. So we don't. It's not a town crew that we always are going to spend Y a year.
Yeah.
You know, deviating a little bit from time plowed and whatnot for winter storms and stuff like that. But we don't really have that. So sometimes we do get hit. Rarely, not very often, but rarely. So I think it's really good we have that, and I wouldn't go any less than the 60.
No, we need to build it back up to where it was.
So do you think it should be more?
I think it's. I don't really well.
I think if we go with the 60 now, it's not a set number.
You can always do a Warner article to
Right.
to
And
maybe
I'll also
cover
just
it.
say, we have this discussion tonight, we can have it again next month too.
Yeah.
We've got time, so we don't necessarily have to finalize this tonight. We
Because
can,
we don't even-
we can take this as the preliminary look and we can say next month we're gonna actually finalize or something.
That's a good way to go, because we don't really have a final number at this point.
But so potentially increasing that is a thought.
Yeah.
So that's mostly for you guys to kind of figure out for next month, I guess.
Yeah, and if
How
you
much? and
come up with the current balances, that would help.
current balances that are actually current, yes.
Right.
Yes. And then Drake Hill, we've been funding at 8,000 to get to. So presumably balance is closer to 100,000, or it's got 8,000 more in it than what it reads. So it's 97,000. And is this still in progress with the state match thing? And we're still in the queue, as it were.
Is that
Do you know
Drake Hill?
Drake Hill Road, the red listed, the north end of Drake Hill Road.
Yeah, you bet. 'Cause I don't think.
So what happened was we applied for the 80-20 matching funds, and the way it works is when they say they're ready to do it, you have a certain amount of time that you have to have the money or they leapfrog you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this program got too saturated with projects, so I think we're outside the guarantee fund balance. But what could bring us back into it is if other towns aren't ready
And
and they say, okay, well, we're gonna jump you, and then we could be brought back in. So I think we need to continue this process. And I was under that bridge the other day. We're fine, it's safe, it's not gonna hurt anybody. But it is a red list bridge, so, and there is a mechanism through the state to get funding for that. So if we can get it, we wanna be ready if
It's
they
being
come.
shovel ready, and if you.
Yeah,
if-
we wanna be ready.
We'll get skipped over again.
So I think it's a good thing to do.
And this number was based on, I don't know, I don't know where these original numbers came from, but $750,000 to do the replacement, gross capital cost. That's probably higher now than it was when this was initially, right? Who would have a handle on what the cost of that actual project would be? Or even
So the cost of a project like that is always the design of the project itself.
yeah.
So the way we would handle this cost is to make sure we design it in a manner that is cost effective for the town of Albany.
Yeah.
So goes right back to, that's the answer to the question. Like, if we have enough for a $750,000 bridge, well, we build a $750,000 bridge, and we design a $750,000 bridge. So, and we can do that. Can we do that for here? Yes, we can do that. So, but the answer to that is, if you want an actual number, you need to have HEB do the design and pay them to do that. But that's the cart before the horse, because we're not going to have the money to pay them to do that until we get the grant. So, I mean, it's.
That is yeah. I'm just trying to learn. Is that bridge like the box culvert you're saying?
So that bridge has 2 head walls, gravel base, 2 spread footings, and a concrete deck.
And so for like things like that, is there not just something that's like, for those features and this size, you're in this ballpark of a number?
Oh yeah,
That exists.
There is. Yes.
So I guess what I'm asking is, would you or someone that actually knows how to find this out, see if this target number matches that at all? Are we wildly high, wildly low, or are we in the ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, that number didn't just come out of the air.
Right.
So that number came from an educated perspective on that bridge and how we could replace it.
Okay.
It's a real number. Right?
So it's a real number. Has it deviated some crazy amounts since 6-7 years ago when we came up with it? I don't think so.
It's gone up.
It's gone up, but
Most of the time there's a contingency in there, so 10%, 20%, something just cost-wise. So we're probably ahead of it, if not even to what it might be.
So if you guys are feeling comfortable with it, I just am asking the question.
Well, when you get someone that says we'll do it for whatever money we have, that's why we're fortunate to have.
well,
Correct.
it will be a bid thing, and it will be but the
You
design
design to what
is
you
where
want.
you
Yeah.
focus yourself.
We're not gonna have
It
fencing, we're not gonna have lights, we're not gonna have.
doesn't need to be
No.
fancy bridge, but there's bridges built all over the place for that kind of type of money.
All the bridges pretty much match each other, how they were done.
So if it were an 80-20 match, the target's 150 for the town, and we're somewhere around just under 100, presumably. So, if we got that thing where you're saying a bunch of other towns got dropped off and they said, Albany, are you ready? We want to have that 150 in hand, or we have 100 in hand. Is 100 in hand enough to say we're ready?
Well, what will be like, so they don't give you a week, right? So they give you, I think it's 12 months.
Yeah.
So you have the ability to go back to the town and say, hey, look,
It's
the
happening.
design came in at $1 million.
Yeah.
We need to come up with 200,000.
Yeah.
We're at 100. We need to raise and appropriate 100. We could do that.
Yeah.
And that whole process can happen by the voters. So.
That can. The whole point of CIP is to not have to do that.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm asking is, if the FEMA or the feds came and said, hey, Albany, it's your turn, do you think we're ready with CIP money to go? Or do you think this plan with CIP money is putting us in position to go? Or would we have to do the thing we could? I guess I'm asking for more.
So we should
information. And I'm not saying you have to have it right now, but we have a month, so maybe next meeting, we find out, what do we think this bridge is actually going to cost? What's 20% of it? Let's get ourselves to that point.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I would
That's
think
the whole point of CIP.
Right. So I would say we're a little light.
with a light.
Yes.
So we might want to up the Drake Hill.
Because
one,
there's
too.
some of the things that have gone up, the design community has gone way up.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that would be, I think, our biggest obstacle. 'Cause
So
I
we
would-
wanna increase the number.
So I guess that moving forward, we'd want to figure out what the number should be,
Can
you know, to increase it.
Yeah.
The yearly stipend. I mean,
Short of tasking you with this, I'm asking, would you be willing to kind of
well,
figure out what that might be?
the actual cost of a bridge with no design.
Yeah, yes.
Well,
Not without diving in
Well,
deep, but like,
Yeah, I mean,
if the FEMA said, Albany, it's your turn, are we in the position to go?
yeah.
You know?
well, assuming there's a design from back when this was originally thought of.
Yes. Yes, there was a preliminary discussion with the design community, and I would have to look back
Look
at
back.
that, so I'm not positive of that, but, you know, in my mind, the engineering is gonna be, you know, under $100,000 and then the bridge, so,
Okay.
but, well, I guess it's just something we need to look into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to do
Yeah,
that?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. A lot of expertise. Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of knowledge.
Well, thank God for Kelly.
There's no fact checking, so just get your pencil out.
Yeah, Cemetery Expendable Trust. This has just been at 1,000 per year. And we should be right near our target, right? The target's 25, we're probably pretty close to that. So I'll have updated numbers next month when we come back to this, but maybe we consider reducing cemetery because we're at our target.
I would think so. Didn't we have a warrant last year where we collected money for cemetery projects? I thought they got extra money for cutting trees and brush and so.
There was one a couple years ago that got proposed and shot down, or not, it didn't get approved.
I thought they got some.
It was a hole in the ground, and it was going to cost $3,000 to fill the hole.
Yeah, that was before me. I wouldn't like. I know
Yeah.
last year we definitely, because I know.
Or did not a hole, a sink.
Well, that would be
But-
a cemetery committee question, I
Yeah.
would assume. Because there actually is a cemetery committee, so.
Right, who's the fellow just here?
Jim.
Jim.
He is on it.
He is. He's gonna be on a few things here pretty soon.
Oh, good. And then the reevaluation trust fund. So we just had it last year, right?
Yeah.
Assessment was done.
I believe yes.
So I think that's. Well,
That's continuous though.
that's continuous, and I think that 3,500 was just keeps it on the schedule
Yeah,
of every
it
3
just-
years. That
yeah.
keeps it.
It gets continuous.
Okay. So we'll look at this again next month with some more information, with some updated balances, and we'll just say this is our preliminary discussion.
I'll try to get us an updated budget. I'll reach out to HEB and ask what they would estimate a design acceptable to the New Hampshire DOT would be on that bridge.
Awesome.
Estimated design cost for them.
Yeah.
They're the town engineer, obviously, and yeah, see what we can do.
Great. All right. Select board report.
No,
Want to share anything?
no, nothing really going on. We have a applicant for a third selectman. Jen's all done. She was the last meeting last week. So
Okay.
we have one candidate so far. It's a strong candidate, so there shouldn't be a problem. That'll be good to get someone in there.
Good.
Forward in the budget season.
All right. You've mentioned the state hosting another Route 16 discussion.
Yes,
today.
and we're
Get a
still in the works of getting them. And it's just tough because with them and us, it's a busy time of year.
Yeah.
They're wrapping stuff up. We're trying to do our stuff. So.
Yeah.
But they have to have one by right. They have to. So
And they have a deadline for when
And
they
they're
have to
gonna-
have it?
I think that's probably gone, so.
Oh.
With the state, deadlines don't mean a lot, so we'll see. It should be here pretty soon though.
Okay.
But I'll say, the discussion is, like I said before, it's breaking it into sections and trying to do the most to one section rather than spreading a little bit over the whole area, but, I know besides that project, we have the 113 intersection that's, on a lot of people's minds, on my mind especially too, so that discussion happened with the state, and, said gas, what's that meeting they had? I can't remember, Gasset meeting in Conway, and that's where all the big wigs go and the representatives meet, talk about future projects, and 113 was brought up by myself and by North Country Council as a 10-year plan. So I'm trying to push it quicker than that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Right. And I think we can talk about Kyle, budget, CIP, zoning. I'll table everything else unless anyone has anything
So
else.
just the Forest Service sent an email about the cut. Did you see that about the cut off of High Street?
Oh, I did not.
And it was, they were giving more of an updated timing, and I'd have to read it to give you a specific timing, but it's at least a year out. There was a note in the email, and I sometimes things get lost in translation, right? I mean, especially in emails or texts or whatever, but the Forest Service made mention of if the roads were properly built and had gravel and blah blah blah, they wouldn't have to have a concern about the pavement and breaking up and all that,
And if
That-
they're not,
yeah, so that's not something that I think as a town we should let the Forest Service get away with that type of response, because that brings us right back to where we were 10 years ago
yep,
Past Conway.
in Passaconaway,
yeah.
and it's already pushing away any type of responsibility for our roads.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know Mr. What's his name? Jeff Enos.
Yeah.
Enos. He's a really nice man, and so I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to put it on record that's not going to fly with this. I would hope that's not going to fly with this town. So
They always throw back that it's fuel trucks get to use the road. Why don't they get to use the road? But isn't there a large weight difference?
well, they're running those log trucks are 102,000 pounds technically coming out, but I would suspect that's probably a modest. So I mean that's 50 tons. So
I don't see the comparison between.
there is no comparison. The fuel trucks are 70,000.
And then
so
the frequency. Field truck goes up there once in a while versus daily.
Yeah.
So I'm getting tired of hearing that one too.
So anyway, it's just something as all of us as residents of this town and people watching and whatnot in the select board, they need to just really keep an eye on it. I mean, I think it's great, it's logging, there was a lot of discussion about the logging and a lot of people don't like it. And I mean, the state, we're 85% forest. I mean, you go back to the 1800s, we were 40% forest.
Yeah.
So I mean, don't give me that this state we're cutting all our trees. I mean, that's just not factual. You just don't know what you're talking about if you say that. So I'm all for that. But we
New
just
England, New England grows forests very
New
well.
England grows forests. So I always hear that and I see these letters and I just shake my head and I'm like, just with these cool AI chat thing, you can do some research in about 38 seconds to make yourself not look stupid, but whatever. But anyway. So, but I'm all for them doing that. I just don't want it to hurt the town like it did before.
What is the answer?
Well, I've talked to a couple foresters that years ago they put temporary bridges on Pascagoula Road before the covered bridge, and they crossed out that way.
Huh.
So why can't they do that again? I mean,
Get them back on their road.
And there's not just to document how the roads are, and then because then You're chasing them after the fact.
You basically have to put cameras up on the whole road. I mean, how can I prove it was log truck X or some guy in a Winnebago driving up the road and not realizing there's a couple bridges and having to turn around and drive back?
It's deja vu from 10 years ago, like you said, when we got a bond, we did the whole thing, we had meetings and
We had video.
we had video, you went out and took pictures of the roads before and after, it's still, why do you prove it? What do you know? So, common sense says it's just too much weight. But I didn't hear that about the bridge, that sounds like a huge undertaking, but
It's
how
you
bad
know,
do they want the trees?
I mean, the people do. I mean, it's, if you have to do. I mean, the bottom line is it should not be on the Albany taxpayer to fund that cut as far as the infrastructure to get it out of here.
Agreed.
Especially how underfunded. I mean, they have 40,000 acres in Albany. In the Waimanalo National Forest, and they fund their taxes however much they feel like it. So, I mean, I know that's oversimplifying it a lot, but I mean, they set their own, basically, tax rate. So, and we don't get, I mean, you know better than I do, because you see it come in, but we don't not get very much money from the Forest Service. So, and we pay for a lot of rescues and a lot of transportation things and all that as a taxpayer, so it's just, you know, something we need to, not to do it, make the point go on and on, but we just need to be really conscious of it.
Just, you can't just say no. If it was that easy, just say, we're not allowing it, that'd be an easy thing, but
Right.
we just can't do that, so. Again, the answer is elusive to what you.
Keep them on dirt roads the best we can, so,
Yeah.
that's,
Well, fight the fight when it comes, I guess. Or have the discussion, I guess you'd say.
All right. I have no further business. Anyone else?
Do it.
Yep. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Kelly,
Curtis won.
Kelly,
Yep.
Favorite.
Kelly.
Yes, I do.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.